Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we dig through mountains of research so you don't have to. Today, we're taking a look at Bayesian thinking and how it can change the way you see the world.
And, even if you're not a mathematician, understanding the principles behind it can really help you make smarter decisions, predict outcomes more accurately, and even navigate the world of information overload we live in these days.
Sounds pretty useful. So how exactly do Bayesians use probability? Is it about predicting the future?
Not necessarily. Instead of simply accepting or rejecting ideas, Bayesians assign probabilities to their beliefs. Think of it as like a spectrum of certainty.
Okay.
And as new evidence comes up, they just update those probabilities.
So instead of saying this will definitely happen, a Bayesian would say there's a high probability of this happening based on what we know so far.
Exactly. It's a more nuanced and flexible approach to knowledge. And this is where Bayes' theorem comes in a really fundamental concept in Bayesian thinking.
Okay.
It provides a mathematical framework for updating those beliefs as new evidence emerges.
Sounds a little complicated. Can you give us a real-world example without getting too lost in the math?
Sure. Think of a spam filter.
Okay.
It starts with some prior knowledge about spam emails, certain words, sender addresses, things like that.
Yeah.
And then as it analyzes new emails, it updates its belief about whether an email is spam based on the presence or absence of these indicators.
So the more spam it sees, the better it gets at identifying it.
Exactly. It refines its probabilities with each new piece of information.
Wow.
This concept of updating prior beliefs with new evidence is really at the heart of how Bayesians learn. It's not about being right or wrong, but about constantly refining our understanding based on what we know.
Fascinating. So this is how machines learn too.
Absolutely. Bayesian inference is widely used in machine learning. Think of search engines.
Okay.
Imagine you search for a specific topic. The engine considers your previous searches, the popularity of websites, and a ton of other factors to try and give you the most relevant results.
So it's learning from my behavior and from the behavior of millions of other users to predict what I'm looking for.
You got it. It's constantly updating its probabilities, leading to a more personalized and accurate search experience.
That makes sense. Now let's talk about another area where Bayesian inference is making a huge impact: speech recognition.
Ah, yes. Speech recognition. This is where hidden Markov models, or HMs, come into play.
HMMs, those sound familiar. Could you break it down for our listeners?
Okay, so think about it this way. When we speak, we produce a sequence of sounds.
Right.
But the actual words we're saying are hidden. They're represented by those sounds. HMMs model this process by using probabilities to figure out the most likely sequence of words based on the sounds they observe.
So it's like deciphering a code where the spoken sounds are clues and the HMM is trying to crack the code to reveal the intended words.
Exactly. A great analogy. It's a really remarkable application of probabilistic thinking that has revolutionized how we interact with technology.
This is all so incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how these complex concepts are actually powering some of the most cutting-edge technology we use every day.
Indeed. And we're only just scratching the surface.
This has been a great start to our deep dive. Let's take a moment to process all this amazing information, and we'll be back soon for part 2, where we explore even more real-world applications of Bayesian thinking. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about how Bayesians use probability to learn and update their beliefs.
Yeah, it's really amazing how these concepts can be applied in fields like machine learning and spam filtering and speech recognition.
It's fascinating how this probabilistic thinking can be applied to complex systems even beyond the digital world.
Okay.
Like, let's take medical diagnosis, for example.
Okay, how does that work?
Imagine you're a doctor. You're trying to diagnose a patient. You have some initial hypotheses based on the patient's symptoms, right? So using a Bayesian approach, you would consider the prior probability of each disease, factoring in things like the patient's age, medical history, lifestyle choices.
So you're not just jumping to conclusions based on the most obvious symptoms. You're considering the bigger picture and the probabilities associated with various possibilities.
Exactly. And then as you gather more information through tests and examinations, you update your beliefs about the likelihood of each disease.
Okay.
And this process continues as you refine your diagnosis, which hopefully leads to more accurate and personalized treatments.
That's a really powerful example of how Bayesian thinking can impact real-world decisions and outcomes.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. Consider the world of finance where risk assessment is so important.
Yeah, finance always seems so complex. How can Bayesian principles help people navigate that world?
So think of an investor who's trying to decide where to put their money.
Okay.
A Bayesian approach might involve building a model that considers economic indicators, historical market trends, the performance of individual companies.
So instead of relying on gut feelings or chasing the latest hot stock, they're looking at the data through a probabilistic lens.
Precisely. They're assigning probabilities to different market outcomes, which allows them to make more informed and calculated investment decisions, balancing, the potential rewards with the inherent risks.
This sounds like a much more rational and strategic approach to investing. It removes the emotional guesswork and focuses on data-driven insights.
You got it. And this Bayesian approach isn't just limited to medicine and finance. It has applications in such diverse fields like marketing for personalizing advertising campaigns, climate science, for modeling those complex climate patterns and predicting future trends.
It's truly remarkable how this one framework can be applied across so many different disciplines.
Yeah, it really is. It's a testament to the power of probabilistic thinking and its ability to bring clarity and insight to complex problems.
This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation, and we've only just begun to explore the potential of Bayesian thinking.
There's so much more to uncover.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll discuss how you can use these principles to make better decisions in your everyday life. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Bayesian thinking. We've talked about how Bayesians use probability to learn and make decisions, and how it's used in some pretty advanced technologies.
It has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
Now in this final part, we're going to see how you can actually apply these principles to your own life, even if you're not, a data scientist.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good takeaway. So how can our listeners become everyday Bayesians?
Well, one of the most important things to remember is to be aware of your own biases. We all have them.
Right.
And they can really shape how we see the world and how we interpret information.
It's like having these invisible lenses that color our perceptions.
Exactly. Recognizing those biases is the first step to becoming a more critical thinker. And then as you come across new information, ask yourself, does this confirm or challenge my existing beliefs?
So it's about being open to changing your mind when you get new evidence, even if it goes against what you thought before.
Exactly. This is the essence of Bayesian updating. You have a prior belief, you gather new evidence, and you update your belief accordingly. It's a constant process of refinement.
Okay, this makes a lot of sense. But how do we actually apply this in practical situations?
Okay, let's say you're evaluating news and information you know.
Okay.
We live in a time where we're just bombarded with information from all these different sources.
Right.
So how do you know what to trust?
It can be really overwhelming, especially with so much misinformation out there these days.
Yeah, so think of it this way. You have an initial belief about the reliability of a particular source.
Right.
Maybe you've read their articles before or, their reputation. This is your prior.
So if I'm reading an article from a source known for, sensationalism, I should probably be a little more skeptical from the start.
Exactly. As you read the article, you look for evidence that supports or contradicts the claims they're making. Do they cite credible sources? Are they presenting different perspectives?
Okay.
This new evidence lets you update your initial belief about, how trustworthy the information is.
So it's like being a detective, piecing together the truth from the clues you find.
That's a great way to put it. And you can use this process for pretty much any decision you make, from, choosing what to eat to making a big financial investment.
So it's not just about crunching numbers or using complicated formulas. It's more about a mindset, a way of thinking critically about the information we're faced with every day.
Absolutely. It's about being okay with uncertainty, being open to new evidence, and always refining your understanding of the world.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox for making smarter decisions.
That's the power of Bayesian thinking.
To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this exploration as much as we did. Remember, becoming a Bayesian isn't about memorizing equations. It's about having a curious mind, thinking critically, and being willing to update your beliefs when you learn something new.
It's a journey of constant learning and discovery, for sure.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future deep dives into the world's hidden knowledge. Until next time, keep those minds curious.